Hello Internet! This is the second episode of the series Getting Started with Advanced Themer. In this video, we will review the recommended settings if you are using a framework such as ACSS, OxyProps, or the core frameworks. And if you haven't checked the first episode on the recommended settings, go right now, because I'm not going to review every single option. I'm going to start from the recommended controls on a fresh installation. But now I'm going to be more specific for the case where you are using a framework. Okay, so first check the first episode. When you're done, come back in this video and we'll check together the best option in Advanced Themer coupled with your framework of choice. Okay guys, before jumping on each setting, the one that I recommend using when you work with a framework, I want to first explicit my view on the framework. So as many of you know already, I'm not a framework user. So in my build, when I work for clients and I will build a site for myself, I don't use any framework, because in time I created my own set of variables and utility classes that I'm confident with, and that helped me building a website quite fast. And I've never felt the need to adopt a framework mentality or workflow. But I'm well aware that this is a personal choice, and I know that a lot of people find great value using frameworks, and I'm not saying that you should do like I do, but I just want to make sure that this is my point of view from a user that is not explicitly using frameworks in the current workflow. Okay, but what I want to point is something that I saw a lot from people using framework, is that they tend to limit themselves and their creativity and the use of the builder functionalities based on the limits of the frameworks. And what I want to say is Advanced Themer play very well with all the frameworks, because it's framework agnostic. It doesn't depend on a particular framework to work. And you can, of course, use it without any framework. But I would tend to say that Advanced Themer can also expand your possibilities using a framework. And I'm going to try to demonstrate it in this video, right? And the first example will be the global CSS variables. So I know that it's really well shared inside the community that if you are using Advanced Themer and a framework, you want to disable the CSS variables, the global CSS variables, and also the theme variables, because you already have a framework that is going to take care of your typography, your spacing, border radius, etc., etc. And I think it's partially true, because except core framework, because core framework is a framework that you can add your own variables inside it, so you are not limited by the choice offered by the framework. You can create your own using core framework. So I'm going to keep core framework aside for now. But I'm just going to focus on ACSS and I believe OxyProps too, and other as well. They come with a set of properties. So for typography, they will give you the possibility to automatically set your headers and all sort of different typography styles, which is great, right? That means, for example, you don't need all the presets from Advanced Themer, right? And my recommendation would be to remove the existing ones, right? So you don't need H1, H2, H3. let's remove everything here. And that's it. If you are not planning to add more typography options from what your framework is offering, then of course you can safely disable the option. So in this example, I would go in general, and if I don't plan to add further typography variables, I'm just going to disable the option. It will be hidden in the tabs here, and it won't be in any case on the front end anymore, right? So see, this is the easy approach. You can just disable them, okay? But my point is, you may want to still add more variables to what your CSS framework is offering you. And I'm well aware that, for example, for ACSS, you can use the calc function to change specific variables in certain contexts. But my personal view is it's not the best way to deal with it, okay? Because adding the calc function on the variables, it's a bit like adding inline styles on an element to quickly style it, but it doesn't make it maintainable and scalable, okay? The right way to do it is assign your custom values to a new variable, okay? And so if you are going to use a typography, a specific typography for a specific context, for example, I don't know, a card title, maybe only your card title will be different from your other headers. I'm just making an example. I'm not saying it's the best way to do it, but if you want to do it, you are going to be more structured if you are assigning your values in a dedicated variable compared to using things like calc and things like that. I don't think this is the best way to manage your variables. And so if you are going to create a specific style for your card title, you can just type card title here, assign the minimum and maximum value, and this will create only this specific typography variable, okay? Now, we are in the backend, okay? So we are creating global variables. These mean it will be applied on the whole website, on all your themes and all your pages. There are other options that you can use inside the builder, and they are called theme variable, and they depend on the theme you are applying to your page, okay? I have another video that explains the difference between global variables and theme variables, okay? My recommendation is to keep the theme variables enabled, even if you are using a framework. Again, let's keep aside core framework because you have the same ability to do this in core. But there is a difference with core, is you need to go back inside the backend to change and add your theme variables or your global variables, and then refresh your builder to have them available inside the builder. The difference with Advanced Themer is you can create theme variables on the fly. You just create them inside the builder. They are going to apply directly inside the builder, and they will be saved through all your pages inside the website. So let's say the Advanced Themer approach is more integrated inside the builder if you find values with it. So if you don't want to go back and forth messing with your core values, then you can still use the theme variable. There's nothing wrong in using it. The downside of it, of course, and it's something that has been talked about by the users, is you are creating different variables in different places, which is, I completely understand this critique, and you need to see if it makes sense for you to create different places. But for example, and I understand it mostly with core framework. But for example, ACSS or OxyProps, if you are going to structure your variables, you are going to create them one way or another. So if you are going to create it using your child theme or the global styles, or using WP Codebox, for example, it's still another place. Okay, so I would consider this option to maintain your theme variables integrated inside the builder, and they won't conflict with ACSS or your other framework. It's just an option more that you have to keep things organized from my point of view. Of course, if you are going to rely, for example, the box shadows, if you are going to rely on all the box shadows offered by your framework, it makes, of course, no sense to keep them in Advanced Themer. But the good is, you can just disable it, okay? Without disabling all the possibilities of the CSS variables from Advanced Themer. So probably most framework have you covered with width, border radius, maybe border. But for example, typography and spacing, I would tend to keep them because, of course, I would delete all the existing one because these are used like a default values. Okay, if you are not using a core framework, so I will probably delete them all, sure. But I will keep the ability to create my own because I don't want to be limited by the offer, the choice of the framework, but I also want to be able to create the values, the variables that can be really handy inside my project. Okay, so I probably will remove all and create card spacing, maybe, and my clamp. And I'm well aware there are advantages to keep it inside the framework, but there are also limitations that you can override thanks to this system in Advanced Themer. Okay, and just to make sure in Advanced Themer you are not limited by the categories. Okay, you can create your own categories, right? And you can create your own variables for any kind of situation. So I don't believe that a framework, any existing framework, have you covered in any case, in any design, any possibilities that the design offer. I don't agree with that. So it may cover 95% of your usage. Great. That means it works really great for your workflow. But you still have this 5% of an area not covered by the framework. And you don't just want to say, okay, ACSS is not able to cover my need for this, so I'm going to change my need to apply to the limitation of ACSS. This is not correct. This is not how it works. You should also move your creativity and choose the tool that enhance it instead of limiting it. That is my point of view. And this is why I don't recommend to simply disable the CSS variables. I recommend to keep them, but select exactly what you need from it and what can add value to your framework. And that's why I think Advanced Themer will add extremely great value to your CSS framework. Okay? Because it's not limited by any opinionated choices, and it's not using shortcuts like calculation function inside your builder. Okay? It gives you the opportunity to create variables that are integrated inside the builder, not just writing CSS. Because if we are writing CSS, we don't even need a theme or bricks builder. Let's just use VS Code and we manage our variable like that. This is a way in Advanced Themer to create, manage, and have a good overview of all the CSS variables used on a page using no code. You don't need to know CSS to create your CSS variables. Okay? So the same thing goes for the global colors. global colors. Advanced Themer use a system integrated with the global color palette of bricks, right? So you can say your framework will certainly be super helpful for creating and managing your palettes. Great, but that doesn't mean it will cover all your color needs. Maybe some really simple project, of course, but I'm sure, I know there are projects where a framework is not enough when you are creating complex palettes and colors, right? And for example, Advanced Themer website use, I believe, 7 or 8 different color palettes, because I create a fun play with colors and categories. So each category is assigned to a different colors, where I need shades related to each color. So a complex color system, right? And a framework wouldn't serve me well with this thing, because I'm not just using primary, secondary, and I'm just willing to change the HSL settings on the fly. I want them categorized. I want them easily editable. And that's why I created an integrated way to create color palettes inside bricks. That doesn't mean you don't need to use the framework colors. Use them, they are super useful. But probably you can leverage also the ability to create more than the framework offers you. That is my principal message. Okay? So let's that's it for the global colors and the variables. Sorry. CSS classes, again, for example, grid utility classes are slightly different. They work slightly different with framework like ACSS, even though they recently released a feature to have something really similar right now. But until a few months ago, there was no equivalent from the utility classes used in ACSS and Advanced Themer. I'm not sure about OxyProps and co-frameworks, to be fair, but you can decide whether to use them or not, and it's not going to go in conflict with your framework, because you can name your classes as you want, and they create more option to you, and than only adopting what the framework wants you to use, right? Okay, let's go to the builder tricks really quick, because you can use a strict editor view. It's not related in any way from the frameworks. You can use the AI. It's not related with frameworks extra as well, right? So the main focus, the main competition, let's say, from a framework and Advanced CSS is on the CSS side of things, and this global colors, CSS variables, CSS classes, and CSS classes and class importer. Of course, again, class importer isn't in competition from your framework. Using a framework doesn't mean you won't write any CSS, and if you want things organized, you may want to write your own CSS in a dedicated external file that you can now import inside bricks and use the global classes created with Advanced CSS, Advanced Themer, and manage both the CSS frameworks, utility classes, and variables on the side, and your own classes that you will create from an external file. So it can be really useful. But now let's jump on the builder tricks. I will keep, of course, all the Topbar settings just like I advised earlier. It's completely integrated with any framework, right? Structure panel, I would say, again, same thing. I will keep everything from here, because nothing is going to conflict with any of your framework. Classes and styles, of course, here we are going to see some competition. But from my previous selection, you probably want to remove CSS variable picker, okay, because it might be on your way compared to the framework options, okay. Suggestion and autocomplete. Make sure that your framework has the option, but probably if you have the choice, you can use, if they have suggested drop down and autocomplete suggestion, you have the choice of using the framework option or the advanced themer option. Though the advanced themer option is usually more complete because it will suggest any variable available on your page, not just suggest you or autocomplete the variables available inside the framework. Because if it does, it will always suggest the values inside the framework, and all the rest, all your own variables that you may create for your own use won't be suggested. So if you have the choice between both, I would personally suggest to enable the suggestion drop-down from advanced themer, because it will keep suggesting the variables from your frameworks, from your external sheets, from the variables that you created inside the builder using theme variables or global variables, and everything that is on your page will be suggested. So my personal recommendation, if it's possible to disable this from your framework and enable them from advanced themer, I would do that personally, because there are advantages to do this. Okay, but of course you can decide to toggle them off if you prefer to. Color preview and class preview, same thing. The color preview and class preview will work with any framework, whether it is Core, OxyProps, anything. But most of the other frameworks have also this option to preview the color and classes when over. So there is no particular benefit from using one or the other. They both do the same thing. So just select the one that you prefer. But again, I would probably select the advanced themer one, because we already have all our builder tweaks in this page, and you probably want to manage only the specific builder tweaks in advanced themer. It's made for this. If you are going to use builder tweaks from your CSS framework, well, you never say where you activated one and the other. I mean, advanced themer is mainly based on builder tweaks. So it's logical to activate this option inside advanced themer. But you're of course free to choose what fits your needs, of course. All the other ones, style indicators, breakpoint indicator, locked class indicator, autofocus, auto format, all the options are compatible with any framework in the Bricks ecosystem. Okay, one thing is auto format. I'm aware that ACSS have something similar, although I'm not sure it's complete like the advanced themer option. I believe it works on another trigger, so you have to enter your field to see the auto format. Instead, advanced themer is applying when you unfocus the field. Okay, so if you forget about typing enter to auto format your value, advanced themer won't. It will auto format your value as soon as you exit the focus of your field. And it has some interesting functions like clamp. I don't know if ACSS is able to create clamp function based on the base font size you selected inside the theme style. So these are complex functions that work well if you want to use them. Of course, feel free to use, if you are using ACSS, the ACSS one are pretty good as well, I believe. Okay, but my personal choice will be Advanced Themer again in this function right now. And of course, Advanced CSS Editor is a super companion from CSS Framework. Okay, because as soon as you want to write some custom CSS, Advanced CSS is the first choice. You won't want to use the alternatives. This is the best choice because you can manage page, global, page level, global level, child theme, imported CSS. I have an AI assistant, and now you will soon have SAS integration, which is in experimental right now, but it's working fine, and it will work for page and global and for elements too. So we have the whole package with Advanced CSS. It's like using VS Code inside Bricks with some limitation, of course. It's not VS Code yet, but Advanced CSS has a lot of things. Have variable CSS suggestion, autocomplete, auto bracket, a lot of things that make Advanced CSS a breeze if you are working with custom CSS. So keep it enabled. This is my recommendation. Elements. I don't think in Elements you have anything that conflict with any CSS framework. Lorem ipsum, icon, style accordion, outlines, nothing. Everything is just great. You could say that Superpower CSS is going in conflict with some function of ACSS because ACSS have some builder tricks that add to the custom CSS field. Instead, advanced themer, it's quite difficult. Advanced themer, automatic CSS. Okay, advanced themer is removing the existing custom CSS field, and it's create a new one with all the enhancement inside. Okay, so you can't have both enhancements from automatic CSS and advanced themer. You want to choose which editor you want to use. And again, I'm super confident to say that Superpower CSS is much more robust and fully packaged with features compared to what automatic CSS offers right now. So if you have a choice to do, I would recommend to go with Superpower CSS because there is a lot more than what the Bricks editor with automatic CSS offer you right now. It may change. We will see in future. Maybe automatic CSS will improve the way the custom CSS editor works, and it will be more value to use the ACSS one. But right now, I'm pretty sure Superpower CSS it's a better solution. Okay, and I'm not saying that to create competition or things like that. I think automatic CSS did a great job to announce globally the Bricks experience, and props to them. And I'm not saying that because I want to be better than one or the other. It's my personal recommendation. If I was a framework user or an ACSS user or a core user, these are the options that I would personally enable because I know the value that comes from them. Okay. And again, the shortcuts, of course, have nothing to do with frameworks, so you can use them without fear. And the same thing goes for the custom settings. Nothing will break with your framework. And again, templates and shortcuts are totally unrelated to your frameworks. So I believe I made a general idea about Advanced Themer and your framework of choice. Of course, I talked about mostly about automatic CSS because I know this is the most popular inside the Bricks ecosystem. Although the core framework has a great popularity in the community, and it works pretty well. Both work pretty well with Advanced Themer, and you don't need to to unselect all the CSS related tweaks in Advanced Themer to make them work well. They do work well. It's just understanding how to leverage Advanced Themer to be the perfect companion to your workflow and your framework of choice. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I hope it was clear. I hope I make a point for you and that you integrating Advanced Themer with your stack. And let's catch for another video in future. Bye bye guys.